Greetings, dear friends. This is Father Joseph Royan, and a very warm welcome to an update into the final week of the Synod on Synodality. I have with me once again our distinguished guest, a moral theologian, a longtime member of the Federation of Asian Bishops Conference, a member of the Theological Commission of the General Secretariat of the ongoing Synod on Synodality, Father Vimal Tirimanna. A warm welcome, Father Tirimanna.
Thank you, Father Joe.
Father Vimal, we have finally come to the end of the Synod of Synodality, which is the 16th General Assembly.
And also the last episode of ours, I guess.
Yes, it is our last episode. We've come a long way. We've started this whole synodal process from at the parish level, at the diocese level, at the regional level, at the national level, and at the continental level.
Yes.
And then we had a 1 month long synod on synodality.
Yes.
Having come to the end, your impressions, your takeaways, key takeaways from the synod on synodality.
Yeah. Without repeating, of course you can't avoid repeating, dear Father Joe, I think this synod is unique, as I have been saying in the previous previous parts of our interviews, series of our interviews. If you want to highlight a few what you call in inverted commas takeaways, first of all, it's a very, very encouraging experience. You are proud to be a Catholic because you know from all over the world there were people in the sense believers, people who are interested in the church's welfare. Of course, as you would know, Joe, I have been in previous synods as a peritus, but this is the first time, thanks to Pope Francis, that non-episcopal members, 70 of them, are participating, and I am one of them. It was a thrilling experience, and I must say my faith is augmented because it's gone up. You come out of the Synod Hall with your faith strengthened. Number two would be, as I have been saying repeatedly ad nauseum, this Synod was one of the most spiritual because of the conversations in the Spirit, what they call. And also, there were no so-called serious polarizings, serious people holding on to their opinions and going after one another's throat as I would have expected. But instead, they had their opinions. We had our opinions, but always respecting the other. I reckon it, first of all, to prayer of most of you, and also our own prayers, because morning, afternoon, evening we have been praying, and also to the great contributions made by good old Father Timothy Radcliffe, the Dominican, as well as Sister Maria Ignazia Angelini. So thanks to them, we were spiritually oriented. So more than an ideological battle, it was mostly everybody respecting one another. And another takeaway, and with that I'll stop because we have to talk a lot. Another takeaway is we lived what Second Vatican Council said we ought to live, namely the local church. I spoke about the round tables, if you remember, and you started with that. In them, we were seated miniature churches, not only figuratively, metaphorically, but also literally, cardinals, bishops, and lay people, priests, religious. So, these are some of the main things. One last thing comes to my mind. Everybody was expecting for this relatio, or the final, it's not final document, it's called synthesis report. They wanted to avoid the term final document, and the making of it was very thrilling. Everybody's opinion was taken into account. Of course, you can't include everything. There are only, I think, about 42 pages. But the beauty is everyone's, the seed of his or her thought is included. And the voting. I expected the voting to be, it was an experience for me. Everything computerized. In fact, the last day, that's day before yesterday, Saturday, 28th, when it was a terrible day, terrible in the sense, humanly speaking, so exhausting. And finally I said, it's enough, because we started at 3:30, went on till 9 without a break, 9 p.m. Not even, of course, those who wanted to go to the washroom and all that, those things were there, but it was taxing, mentally taxing. But this was done thanks to a very good group of theologians. I'm not trying to boast ourselves. And also the voting, I want to say a word and I'll stop there. Cardinal Gray said, now we are going to vote. At what time? It was past 7 p.m. I said, God, we will go home at about 11:30, 12 midnight. Because he said, we are going to vote paragraph by paragraph. I said, God help us. But it was not so frightening, because on the tab, the entire, let's say section 6, section 4, all the paragraphs appear in front of it, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. So till you vote for all the paragraphs, you can't send your vote. It gets locked. So if you want to send your vote, you have to vote for all. But only thing I see as, I won't say negative, is you have to say, let's say there's a paragraph.
Yeah.
Sometimes, no, you have to say yes or no, you agree or not. But sometimes in life, and you with your experiences in chapters as a redemptorist, no, sometimes we say, in the paragraph, one line is troubling us. So now to say yes or no, that was a puzzle. That was a setback, a difficulty. There was no way to, but the rest of the paragraph stands well and I like it. But this line, I would like to have a little bit of nuance. Of course, they did all that in the previous drafts. We are talking about the final draft. These are some of the things.
Thank you, Father Vimal. I'd like to come to the synthesis report that came out on the feast of the Apostles Simon and Jude. A lot of process has gone behind preparing that synthesis report. There are about 20 aspects that were covered, with points of convergence, considerations and proposals. There were about 80 proposals that were voted upon. Could you take us through the process in formulating the synthesis report and some of the key aspects of the synthesis report?
Yeah, let me say this. I think that's a good question. I overlooked it. You are very, very minute in getting me to say the right thing, or rather the appropriate thing. You see, the first draft that was presented to us about 2 days before the final voting it didn't fall from heaven. It was coming from the circoli minori, or the groups. We had to send, and I served, as I told you so many times, in 2 groups I was secretary, in 1 group I was the reporter. Similarly, Cardinal Joe Tobin was, I think, a reporter once and a secretary. So we had to take down and go and sign what we give. So it's exact, and the group has to give the consensus. Our group presents, group 25 presents their report, group 1 present their report. So the redaction committee takes into account seriously, because only those proposals on which there was general consensus the group could send. Otherwise, secretary can't sign. So there was sort of consensus, but when it goes there to the redaction board or the redaction committee, the editorial board, what they did was put them together and brought out a first draft. Obviously, all of us who have been in redacting commissions, editorial boards, we know the first draft to be made within 12 hours with sleepless nights. It cannot be perfect. So it had a few lacunae, a few setbacks, a few question marks, and the group had to vote again, each circolo minore, each small group. And then it was discussed in the plenary assembly. So we devoted about 1.5 days to discuss the draft again. So it was preened through, it was combed through very seriously. So it's not just something haphazardly done. Finally, I was a little pessimistic whether the editorial board, or the, what's the correct term, the redacting committee, whether they could come out before we end on Saturday. They did. By 12 noon, the Italian version, which is, by the way, the original version, the original text, and since I know both the languages, I see there's a little difference between Italian version and the English version. I think this will be polished up later, the English version. It was done quite fast.
Yeah.
In 2 to 3 hours, the group got together and did. So we have to understand. What was your question? Yeah, how did it come about? Yes.
Yeah.
In this, as you said, dear Royan,
There are 20 topics.
20 sections, what they call section, 20 sections, 20. They are named, each one, like, I don't want to name all of them. If you go to the table of contents, you see in 3 parts. Introduction, then finally. But what is beautiful in this is, which is a novelty in a synod, just like lay people voting is a novelty, as you said in passing, convergences. The first part under each section was convergences. That is, groups and the plenary had some sort of agreement.
Yeah.
Then, in English, it's a bad translation. Matters for consideration is not the correct translation. In Italian, because it's the original text, questioni da affrontare, issues to be further probed, to be tackled is the word, affrontare. And then finally proposals, which is very good. I thought rather than hanging in the balance on a theoretical level, that last section, proposals, gives some way forward rather than getting stagnated in one place all the time saying we are discerning, we have to come to a decision.
That's right. Few critical observations about the synthesis report.
Please.
How much of the aspects that came up in the continental level or the parish level or the regional national level were incorporated in the synthesis report, or was it solely the discussions that came on the floor during the month-long synod on synodality? That's one. Second, criticism about
Shall
the
we answer that?
Okay, let's answer that. Yeah.
Because that's a vital point.
Yeah.
Because as you know, Father Joe, the instrumentum laboris, or the working document that was given to us, I didn't bring it today, that was the base for all our discussions in the first 2 to 3 weeks. I would say 3 weeks. We didn't discuss anything and everything.
Okay.
They were divided into 4, what they called, I can't remember, 4 modules, like co-responsibility, community, participation, mission. These were the 4 modules. So these modules were everything that was discussed was according to the instrumentum laboris. So may I say, rather than answering your question, which is very pointed, this document sprang forth from instrumentum laboris, because it was not, we were having tabula rasa without anything on the head, went there and discussed, okay, today it will rain, tomorrow it will, not that. We had something, a working document. From that, the important parts of that in 4 modules, they were discussed each week in different groups, and these were synthesized, and that's how the synthesis report came. So there's a link. Yeah. But I don't know why you are asking that. Some of the things may not be there, because you can't, if you reproduce the instrumentum laboris, there's no progress.
That's right.
I don't know why you asked that question.
No, because there's a lot of process that went into
to preparation.
In the preparation,
2 years of.
Yeah. So was that in any way overlooked?
Not at all.
Oh yeah. So that's the concern.
Thanks for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, it is from that this sprang forth.
Yeah. The other observation is about how much of theological and scriptural emphasis was laid in the preparation of the synthesis report. Because, take for example the aspect of salvation, which appears only 3 times, the word salvation as a very cursory matter, about the aspects about the 4 last things. In some way, was it overshadowed with the other issues like concerns about women ordination or LGBTQ issues were matters of theological concerns and scriptural aspects were sufficiently emphasized in the synthesis report.
You are asking whether some of the so-called popular issues like ordination of women, LGBTQ and all that overshadowed. They are not even mentioned.
That's right.
So they didn't overshadow. Discussions, of course, we never discussed. I can say it openly now, the synod is over. There was no discussion of women's ordination. Only once, a certain participant, a lay woman, said she is a woman and she doesn't believe in women's ordination. Except for that phrase, I didn't hear anything about women's ordination. And the other one, LGBTQ, quite a few times in the interventions it was mentioned. Yes, also Father James Martin, yeah. He was there and he was trying to bring in that issue again and again because he is one of those, not that he is gay, he's working for the gay people, LGBTQ people. I want to have a final comment on that. Shall we leave it to the end? But your question was about salvation, for last things, eschatology. Yeah. Now let me tell you, Joe Royan, this is not a theological treatise about Catholic faith. This is not.
Okay.
Otherwise we'll have to say about Mary was immaculate, Jesus was human and divine. These are all presumed and assumed.
Yeah.
So I hear here and there in the internet also I see certain people who want to, not you are asking because you have seen them.
Yeah.
Some of them are saying this is missing, that is missing. This is not a theological treatise. I hope it is clear.
Yeah.
This is meant for a purpose, to promote, what's the theme of this synodal assembly? To promote a synodal way of life. Remember the theme.
Yes.
Mission, participation and
communion.
And then towards a synodal church. Yeah. That was the purpose. So this gives the essence of towards a synodal church. The presumption is, so what about Catholic faith? First of all, we have to believe in God. So those things are not dealt with there. We can't, I don't think, even if you were to meet for not 4 weeks, 4 years, you would cover all that.
That's right.
So that's one. But I know why you are. I presume why you asked. Because some people say this is missing, that is missing. Those who want to find fault, they can find. But I would like to pose a question to them. Look at the theme of the synod. Does this respond to that theme? Yes or no? If yes, we have achieved it. But, dear Royan, this is not just, as I said, a roadmap.
Okay.
It is also based on certain theological things. And you yourself being a doctoral student, you raise the issue of theology, scripture. It's dense with them. Often they are there with regard to relevant issues. I would say, as I said at another meeting today, this document needs to develop further. These are the seeds, as Father Radcliffe said. A sower has sown the seed, now they have to sprout. So this hopefully is a basket of seeds. These seeds have to be planted and they will sprout. Dear Royan, I want to draw your attention to that last section in, not only last section, the two last sections. In English it is matters for discussion. The Italian thing is questioni da affrontare. Issues or questions to be delved into further. They have a lot of theological nuances and openings. Plus the last one, proposals. I think it's like a song. There's a recurring thing, and I pity the good old canon lawyers. Canon law should do this. Canon law should do that. Theologically, this should be understood. That should be understood. We have a lot of work. Moral theologians, systematic theologians, and I would add church historians, along with canon lawyers and scripture scholars. A lot to do, because during the coming 11 months, we have to do delving into these matters and bring the results to the final session where decisions will be made. I said I want to draw your attention to something. Number 15, section number 15. That's about ecclesial discernment and open questions. I thought it's a gem. In fact, I'm going to write a few things on this. It's studded with so many questions that came up. I thought you also had something about voting.
Yeah.
We'll finish with that.
About the configuration, about the group of the Synod members. So we had members from the hierarchy, like the cardinals, the bishops. We had representatives from religious group, from laity. Two important members were missing, what we call the deacons.
Yes.
And the parish priest.
Who said they were missing?
Were they present?
They were present.
Okay.
There's this talk going on. That's why I wanted you to, because you had a chat with me before the recording. There were parish priests, because when you intervene in the plenary assembly, on the screen it's mentioned, let's say, Father Vimal Tirimanna, CSSR, Professor of Moral Theology, or whatever his title. There were many parish priests, not many I would say, at least there were 10, 15. But also, let's not forget, most of the bishops were parish priests before. And also, you can't say grassroots were missing, there were lay people. So, parish priests, there was a concern expressed. Next time there should be more parish priests, not that there were not, there were enough. But also your other point, I think that seems to be a bit valid, but in the Catholic Church, we have very few deacons exercising in most of our churches. But there were, at least to my knowledge, 2 deacons. They were lay people, permanent deacons, one from Belgium. He made a superb contribution. If he's listening, he should be happy. He's a married man with 3 children, I think. But excellent contribution from Belgium, spoke perfect English. And then there was another one from Lebanon, Maronite Rite, and he was also a deacon there. And I don't know whether there were other deacons, but all of them were males. No, because church doesn't have female deacons. So what I wanted to say is, you are saying some voices were missing, but I thought you would put the nail on the head. There were some voices missing, and you are a theology student doing doctorate, and I am a professor of moral theology. There were no theologians. Of course, there was a theological commission. Theological commission was in the margins of the synodal hall, but they contributed. They gave their presentations. But it would have been good if in the circoli minori, in each small groups, a theologian was present. That would have made a difference.
Thank you so much, Father Vimal. By a way of conclusion, what's the way forward now as we prepare for the final session of the Synod next year, around this time, in terms of formation, as to prepare for a synodal way of being the church?
Under section 1J, pertinent to your question, J, section J, you can find it on the internet, section 1, paragraph J. It says about what's going to happen. Building on the reflective work already undertaken, there is a need to clarify the meaning of synodality at different levels. Not that synodality is not clear, but how will it be applied at different levels in the church? And then next line, at different levels in pastoral, theological and canonical terms. This helps to avert the risk that the concept sounds too vague, synodality may sound too vague, or generic, or appears to be a fad or fashion. Last line, it enables us to offer a broad understanding of walking together with further theological deepening and clarification. Likewise, it is necessary to clarify the relationship between synodality and communion and between synodality and collegiality. So that, I refer all the listeners to that particular number. I gave the reference. But your question was about formation. Right from the word go, ever since I got involved in this 2.5 years ago, when the General Secretariat invited me to, as an expert, Theological Commission member, I have been insisting, in fact Cardinal Mario Grech knows that, on two things. I said this synodality will not work if two things don't happen. Formation towards synodality. Please don't misunderstand. Formation, immediately when we say formation, Father Royan, because we are so clerical or religious minded. Religious means religious life, not pious. Those who are in consecrated life. We are so conditioned to think formation means initial formation and ongoing formation of the priests, bishops and religious. No. Here formation towards synodality of the whole church, of the whole people of God, all the baptized. Of course, beginning with the bishops, priests, religious, men and women, laypersons. Laypersons are the vast number. As I read this morning at another place, there's one, I don't want to tire you by reading parts, there's one key element later under bishops. It says, bishop is the main protagonist of this synodal way. Depends on, let's say, Father Joe Royan is the bishop of this given diocese. If you're not interested,
That's right.
Nothing will happen. I want to ham at it. If the bishops, those bishops who are listening, please take it seriously. I have great respect for you. We need you, pastors. But if you bishops are not interested, forget about it. It's there under bishops. Because it's a bishop who and it says bishop has to be an example in the synodal way of doing things. He will motivate the priests, he will motivate his religious, he will motivate the people of God. So formation in that. But I have, and also structures. I said two things, no?
That's right.
Structures have
Yeah.
to change, because we can't put, dear brothers and sisters, new wine into old wine skins, as it happened at the Second Vatican Council. I don't know whether I said it here in the interview with you.
The last
Elsewhere
interview.
I have said, what happened to Vatican II's beautiful new wine on ecclesiology, Lumen Gentium, people of God theology, was we poured that beautiful new wine into old wine skins of hierarchical church, and the hierarchical church absorbed all that. That's it, dried off. So now we need new wine skins, structures. I want to say this line and I stop. That is formation towards conversion. I believe formation has to be for personal conversion and for communal conversion. Without that, there won't be any synodality. You had a question?
So, on line with that, and thank you for bringing the word conversion, because you brought it out again in the last interview. Probably we'll leave with that. Conversion from what and conversion to what?
Conversion from, that's a good question, because I was not clear probably, because conversion is always from one to another. Conversion from the hierarchical church mentality into church as people of God mentality. Because if we are still in the hierarchical mentality of church, oh, church means pope, bishops, priests, religious, lay people. We lay people have to sit, and as the popular cliche goes, we are there only to pay, pray and obey. No, the whole church. So from that to all of us have to convert ourselves. Convert to this theology which is 60 years old. Second Vatican Council gave it. Papa Francesco is only trying to resurrect it. So people of God theology. So conversion from that old ecclesiology to new ecclesiology. But conversion, dear Father Royan, you have been a formator and all that. It's not enough to give big formation programs, talks and all that, if we don't formulate convictions in persons. Good old Pope John Paul II used to say, when there was big hullabaloo and talk about liberation theology and structures, he said, structural change? Yes, we should change structures. But before that, behind structures there are persons. If the persons don't change, structures will not change. So the same thing holds good.
It has been a pleasure having this conversation with you, and thank you for your generosity for
welcome.
taking us through the 4 weeks of giving us an update into the Synod on Synodality. Thank you very much, and
welcome.
thank you, viewers, for
Thanks.
joining us, and God bless you.
Let's wait for next October. All the best.